Hello everybody, welcome to Sane Game Studios. I'm Sane, I'm an amateur game developer. Today in GameMaker tutorials, I'm going to be showing you guys how to build a simple menu system. And so what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be building a main menu, and then once we have that built, I'm going to be showing you how to build a sub menu off of it. So the example I'm going to be using is that like if the player selects settings, the main menu stops being drawn, and instead the settings menu begins to be drawn, and then also it goes back to the main menu when you select to go back. The actual systems in place to do this are not very complicated. The most difficult part about making a menu is making it look the way that you want it to look inside of the game. I find that's a lot of trial and error and coding in the menu, then running the game, seeing how it looks, and then exiting the game, going back into the code, adjusting things, running the game, looking at it again, and then like rinse and repeat until you have exactly what it is that you want. So for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be showing you guys how to get it working and how to get it built so that you guys can work on the aesthetics of it yourself. With that being said, we can take a look at what I have going on for a starter project. As you can see, my starter project in front of me is absolutely empty. The only thing that I have is a room, and then the room is just an empty box with a viewport. Everything is set to be 1280 by 720. And that's it. That's what I got. So let's turn this empty game into a menu game. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a sprite for the menu. I'm going to go create sprite, and I'm going to call this S menu box. I'm going to click import. I'm going to grab the sprite that I want to use, and that's it. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a script. I'm going to call this 9slice. So this is a script that I've always used for my 9slice. I actually got it from Sarah Spalding originally, but you can also get it on Pixelated Pope's public GitHub. I will be including this script in a pinned comment below the video, and it's quite a bit, so I'm not going to go through and explain this script, but I will show you guys how to use it, and I will explain what it does. So to explain what it does, I'm going to go into the sprite here, and essentially what that script does is it slices the image into 9 sections. So it's going to slice it. So what it's going to do is you're going to give it 2 coordinates. You're going to give it the coordinate for this corner and the coordinate for this corner. And what it's going to do is it's going to draw this corner, and then it's going to draw this panel as many times as it needs to reach where it's supposed to draw this one. Then it's going to do the same thing down, so it will draw this panel as many times as it needs until it's ready to draw this one, and then it will do the same for this one and this one, and then it will wrap it up by drawing this panel. And then once it has all of that drawn, it will fill the middle with as many of this panel as it needs, so that you can take this sprite and you can stretch it without distortion into any size that you need. GameMaker does have a built-in 9slice feature. I personally have never looked into how to use it. I haven't had a need to. I've always had this script, and this script has always worked great for me. One thing actually I'm going to do quickly is I'm just going to change the background of this room to a gray. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a font. Because anytime that you use a font, you should always include it in your game files. You should never assume that any device that you are using, that your game is going to be played on, will have the font that you're using already included. And if a device doesn't have the font already included, it's just going to fill the screen with the default empty square character that I'm sure you guys have seen before just around. So I'm going to call this FNT my font. And even if you're using a font that is readily available in your device, you still should just include it in your game file so that it is there for any other device, just in case it doesn't exist on that device. So I'm going to go select font. I'm going to use Born to be Sporty. You guys should know this font. It is the font that I use for all of the text in my videos. I'm going to increase its size to 16. And that's going to be that. And now we can create a menu object and get into the magic. So I'm going to create an object, and I'm going to call it O menu. And I always do this with the menu option. I always have it set so that the menu, like the menu object, always draws the menu. And then I know in game, in order to create a menu, all I have to do is just create this object. Like if the player hits pause, not only does the game pause, but this object is also created, and that's what opens the menu. So to kick this off, I'm going to go into the create event, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to declare my input variables. And like, I'm not going to need very many input variables because this game is just a menu. So I'm only going to need 3 buttons. I'm going to need key up equals false, key down equals false, and key select equals false. I'm going to need a variable to track our position inside of the menu, and I'm going to call that pause. I'm going to default it to 0. I'm only going to be using the draw event. Most likely you're going to be using the draw GUI event, so you might want to set these variables up a little bit differently. I'm going to be drawing it to the room, so to center it in the room, I'm going to be using the room width and room height variables. If you're going to be drawing it to the GUI event, where you're going to be drawing it to the screen rather than the room, you'll instead be using the draw GUI event, and then you will also use like display get width and display get height. But what I want to do is in my create event, I want to find dead center. So I'm going to go half width equals room width divided by 2. And half height equals room height divided by 2. And then I'm going to set some margins that we can use to tell the game where to start drawing the text that we need for like the menu options. So I'm going to create a horizontal margin, and I'm going to have that equal 50. Then I'm going to create a vertical margin, and I'm going to have that equal 100. If you hear rustling in the background, cats have the zoomies. And then I'm going to create a spacing variable, and this is going to be how far we space each menu option apart. And I'm going to have that equal 50. And with that, we can actually start building our menu options. So because we're going to have submenus, I'm going to be creating multiple arrays. We're going to be starting with just one array for now, and that is going to be for the main menu. And I'm going to call that main menu options. And I know exactly how many options I'm going to need, so I'm going to go ahead and go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm just going to go 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Say start. Actually, I'm going to call it new game. New game. Load game. Settings. Exit game. And for the middle here, just to create a couple more items so that we have more than just the 4, just so I can show you guys better how this works. I'm just going to create a couple dummy options. I'm going to go example 1. And example 2. And for now, that's all we're going to have to do in the create event. So now I'm going to open a new event. I'm going to go to the step event. I'm going to go key up equals, key down equals, and key select equals. Just so we can define our variable for getting player input. So all this is doing is it is setting key up to be the up arrow on the keyboard, key down to be the down arrow, and key select to be the space bar. So then when we hit these buttons, so if we hit, so if key up, we want to be moving up in the menu. And then if you look at the create event, look at our array, the top of our menu is 0 and the bottom of our menu is 5. So if we are at 2, we're at settings, and we want to move up to new game, we want to go down in number. So I'm going to go if key up, pause, minus minus. Then I'm going to say if key down, pause, plus plus. That's just going to subtract 1 or add 1 from our pause variable whenever we hit the up or down keys. Then to make sure that the player is not able to scroll the menu past how many items we have, I know for a fact that we have 6. Right, so like pause should never be less than 0. And should never be greater than 5. So I'm going to say if pause is less than 0, pause equals 5. And if pause is greater than 5, pause equals 0. What that's going to do is that's going to make it so that if they go to the bottom of the menu and hit down, it will wrap them back up to the top of the menu. And then same if they go to the top of the menu and hit up, it will wrap them down to the bottom of the menu. And that's all that we have to do in here for now. So I'm going to go to the draw event. Like I said, I'm just going to do this in the draw event. Most menus are built in the draw GUI event. But for the sake of this tutorial and just showing you guys how to do it, I'm just going to do it in the draw event. So I'm going to go 9 slice, S menu box, half width, minus 100, half height, minus 150, half width plus 100, and half height plus 150. Actually, if I run this, I can show you guys the box. Oh, I gotta put the object in the room. See, like, here's our box that we're going to be drawing our menu on. It's not very big, but it's big enough to do the job that we need. So I'm going to go back to the draw event, and the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to establish draw settings. So I'm going to go draw set V align. I'm going to go FA middle. Draw set font. I'm going to go FNT my font. Draw set color. I'm going to go C_black. And then I'm going to be doing a couple different things with my horizontal alignments. So I'm going to create a space there. I'm going to go draw set H line. I'm going to go FA middle. No, sorry, center. FA center. And then I'm going to draw some text. I'm going to go draw it at half width and at half height minus 150. I'm actually going to make this 200. What I'm going to write is main menu, X scale of 2, Y scale of 2, angle of 0. I'm not just going to put a label at the top that says main menu. I'm going to go draw set H line again. I'm going to go FA left. And now what we're going to do is we're going to be creating a for loop to loop through all of the options in our main menu options array, and then figure out which one that the player currently has selected, and then we're going to draw them all, but draw the selected one slightly differently. So I'm going to go for var I equals 0. I is less than array length. Main menu options minus 1. I'm not 100% sure about this. I'm going to run it and see how it behaves, but I'm pretty sure that when you go array length and you plug in an array, let's say you only have one entry in that array, that entry is going to be entry 0, but it's going to be, the array length is going to have a length of 1. So you minus 1 to accommodate for the 0 entry. Like I said, I'm not 100% sure. I did do this tutorial on my own before I started recording it, but I don't know, it's early. I'm tired. So inside of this for loop, I'm going to say that if pause does not equal I, which means that the current text that we are drawing is not the one that we have selected, I'm going to draw text half width minus horizontal margin. And then I'm going to go half height minus vertical margin plus spacing times I. And then the text we're going to draw is main menu options entry I. So what this does is, if let's say we are on option 0 It's going to draw it at our horizontal margin spot, and then it will also draw it at a vertical margin spot. Then it will add the spacing multiplied by the entry. So if we're on 0, it's going to be +0, and then it will draw option 0. But if we are on 1, which will be load game, it will do the same thing here, but instead here, spacing will equal spacing times 1. Spacing is 50, so that will equal 50. It will lower it by 50. Then if you're on option 2, this will lower it by 100, and it will draw the text for the string that we have in that entry. Else, so what this is if pause does equal I. So it is currently drawing the text that the player has selected. I'm essentially going to do the exact same thing. The only difference is in here, I'm going to create a little arrow and a spacer, and that will make it very obvious that that is the one that we have selected. And honestly, like that's all I really have to do here. So let's run this and I can show you how it works. Look at that. Oh, see, I think I was wrong with the -1. There we go. As you can see, we can scroll. It knows which one we have selected. It communicates which one is currently selected, and it makes it easy to scroll. And then if we go to the bottom and we hit down, we go to the top. If we're at the top and we hit up, we go to the bottom. It's a pretty good looking menu. So far, the only thing that I really want to do is I want to make the box a little bit wider. So instead of going half width -100, I'm going to go half width -150 and half width +150. There we go. That looks a lot better. So now that we have this built, we can start to build a submenu. So we're going to build a submenu for settings. And realistically, there's only unless you put something in example 1 and 2, load game and settings will definitely have submenus. If you have multiple files in your game, new game will also have a submenu. But I'm going to show you guys how to build one for settings. So I'm going to go back to the create event. I'm going to create an enum. I'm going to call this enum menu. And then if you don't know what an enum is, essentially it is a labeling system for a numerical system, right? So like we are going to create a state event, well, a state machine for our menu object. But instead of it being like state equals 1, state equals 2, state equals 3, we'll have menu state equals, enum this and enum that. So we're going to create an enum and we're going to go main. And then we're also going to create one called new game, load game, and settings. You do not need to put a semicolon after this, and all that does is it just creates the enum. Enums are global in scope, and like I said, it's just like a labeling system for any kind of numerical system you create. So underneath pause, I'm actually going to create a new variable, and I'm going to call it state, and I'm going to have it equal menu.main. So when we first open up the menu, it's going to default to the main menu state. We're going to create a new array, and I'm going to call it settings options. And for this, I think I only need 4 entries. Now I'm going to create sound, graphics, controls, and back. And then I'm going to go into my step event, and I'm going to create a switch statement so that our pause limits will be different depending on which menu state that we are in. So I'm going to go switch state, case menu.main. And then break. Whenever you use a switch statement, after you set everything, you're going to want to break it so that it breaks out of that case. I'm going to create another one, case menu.settings. And essentially I'm going to be doing the exact same thing. The only difference is I only want to go to 4. Sorry, 3. I only want to go to 3. And then we're going to be doing essentially the exact same thing in here. So right here, I'm going to create another switch statement, and I'm going to call it state again. And then I'm going to go case menu.main. Break. And now I'm going to go case menu.settings. I'm going to grab all of this. I'm going to put it there. I'm just going to change a handful of things. Instead of main menu, I'm going to say settings. Instead of main menu options, I'm going to say settings options. Instead of do the same thing here, So actually I'm going to copy this, paste it there, and paste it there. So now our settings menu is set to be drawn, but we still have to be able to select it and swap in between the different options. So over here in the main menu case, I'm actually going to create another switch statement. Well, actually, I'm going to go if key select. And then in here, I'm going to create another switch statement. But this time, I'm going to go switch pause. So it behaves differently depending on what our position is. Case 0, which is new game. I don't have anything to put there, so I'm just going to put break. Case 1, which is load game. I don't have anything to put there, so I'm just going to put break. Case 2, which I believe is our settings. Settings. So here, I'm going to be putting a couple things. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say pause equals 0. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say state equals menu.settings. And honestly, that should be all I have to do. So I'm going to go break. And then just for good measure, I'm going to put the other cases in here. Whenever I do something like this, I always add all of my dead cases, so that way I can look at my code and be like, okay, I still need to build this, right? It's a bit of a progress tracker while you are trying to build something. So I'm going to grab this chunk of code, and I'm going to put it down here as well. The only real difference is we're going to be doing it on case 3, because that is the case that has our back. And instead of going to menu.settings, I'm going to go to menu.main. Right, so essentially all that we're doing is we've set the draw for our main menu, and we have set the draw for our settings menu. And then we have created a select system that will swap between the settings menu and the main menu. Now if we run this, here's our menu as you remember it. But if I go to settings, here's our settings menu. But if I select back to the main menu. Honestly, I thought that showing you guys how to do submenus was going to be a lot more complicated than that. I knew how to do it, but to explain it and actually do it, I thought it was going to be much more involved. I'm surprised I got through that as quickly as I did. But with that, that's all that I got for you today. Sorry if my voice is still pretty raspy. As I said in my post on my channel dashboard, I'm still getting over an illness and I have not yet fully recovered. But thank you very much for watching this video. I do enjoy making tutorials for you guys. I don't always know what tutorial that I'm going to do next. I have been thinking about doing a full game build series where I would start off with a blank project, and by the end of the series, you would have a fully functional game. I was thinking about doing that for a top-down shooter, just because I know that Sarah Spalding did one for a platformer and for an action RPG. And then like Friendly Cosmonaut did one for like a farming sim like Stardew Valley. I'm sure somebody out there has done a top-down shooter one, but not anyone that I particularly know. Actually, I do think that One Up Indie did one. It was like a Hotline Miami clone. He's like, this is how you build Hotline Miami. But that is something that I am considering doing, is just doing a series just to be like, build your first game. Here you go. Let's jump into it. If that's something you'd be interested in, please let me know. If you have any tutorial requests, please let me know. I could really use more ideas for things that you guys want to learn. So far, I'm just kind of like shooting fish in a barrel and being like, okay, so this is the tutorial that I'm going to do today, I guess. So it would be really nice to get a little bit more feedback on what it is you guys want to learn. So please let me know. That 9-slice script, like I said, I'm going to be pinning it in a comment at the top of the comment section down below so that you guys have immediate access to that script. And when I say like immediately, it's probably going to be like maybe a 1-day delay from the release of this video, because I can't even comment on it until it's released, as far as I know. If I can figure out a way around that, I'll do it. I'm still pretty new to YouTube. But if you have any questions, need any help with what I've done today, please just ask me. I would gladly help you with everything that I've done. And yeah, please like, comment, and subscribe. That's all that I have for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you guys are having a good one. Peace out.